Ooh, excuse me. I did not mean to start the video. Oh, wait. Maybe I didn't even hear it. That big yawn. Like, oh, goodness. So let's go. Let's see what day 4 has to offer us as we are looking at things that we can focus on, I guess, in the wrapping up of 2020, or emphasize, if emphasize is the word, be aware of as we're moving into 2021. I've been using the wisdom of Lord Ganesha. I was going to make a playlist. I'll probably still make a playlist. I just forgot to make the playlist. And I remember I made a playlist for Virgo season too. It was the Virgo season like cleanup before Libra season. What happened in Libra season? Libra season, or September is when, no, October was the month that we had the 2 full moons. It was a full moon in Taurus on Halloween, and then the full moon in Aries earlier in October. That's what it was. Okay. Oop, oop, oop. Oop, 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 oop. Let's see. Oop, 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 oop. The closer you get to something, the harder it is to see it, and I'll never take you for granted. That's that song. I'm trying to think of the other words. Yeah, the closer you get to something, the harder it is to see it. And I'll never take it for granted. That's good. I'm actually gonna look up the lyrics. I need to quiet down. People are still people are still sleeping. That's the way. Now the song is in Japanese, so I know it's from Naruto. Shippuden, Shippuden. The closer you get to something, the harder it is to see it, and I'll never take it for granted. Let's see if it's this one. Opening 4. Closer. Hey, lyrics. There we go. Thank you. That's what I'm looking for. There we go. Ooh, okay. We'll see if this is reflected in the cards today. The things closest to you, you need to always pay the most attention to. If you get too close to something, you'll lose sight of it. What in the world is the happiness that you gain from your newest experience? Maybe you're just too blessed to remember that you're here, that you're breathing. Realize that's just a miracle in itself. The things closest to you, you need to always pay the most attention to. If you get too close to something, you'll lose sight of it. You know, the closer you get to something, the tougher it is to see it, and I'll never take it for granted. Let's go. Okay. Oh, here we go. There's more. I was like, is that the whole song? There's more. Hey, Zelda. Thank you for the donation. I appreciate it. Though there are people that say helping someone is hypocritical, each person can be trusted or can be doubted. So let's say that even if you are hypocritical, if you saved someone because of it, that would be real more than anything. Continue chasing after your dreams and go on without giving up. The more you say pretty things like that, the less that actually gets done. I'll keep a handful of courage in my heart to use to live through tomorrow, and I'll never take it for granted. Let's go. I say let's go like all the time. The things closest to you, you need to always pay the most attention to. If you get too close to something, you'll lose sight of it. You know, the closer you get to something, the tougher it is to see it, and I'll never take it for granted. Continue chasing after your dreams and go on without giving up. The more you say pretty things like that, the less that actually gets done. I'll keep a handful of courage in my heart to use to live through tomorrow, and I'll never take it for granted. Let's go. Ooh. No, most of that song is in like Japanese, so I never knew what it meant. But except for like the closer you get to something, the tougher it is to see it, and I'll never take it for granted. Let's go. But it is interesting because it's saying like pay attention to the things that are closest to you, but if you get too close to it, you'll lose sight of it. And I've started using this magnifying glass lately. Well, I had to after I had my first eye operated on and I still had homework to do. I'm like, oh my gosh, that was the eye that I actually used to see. um, but it's like if you hold a magnifying glass too far away from your subject, it'll appear upside down. It'll be in reverse. And it's not until you get close enough that you see it upright. Wow, that's interesting. Hold up, let's see if I can do it on here. We'll look at the D in Lord Ganesha. Okay, let's choose another letter. We'll look at the O in Lord Ganesha. Okay, let's see if I can do this on here. Well, not even so just like look at the letters, okay? You see that? Let's see if I can get a camera wide. All right, now as I go up, oh, see, this is why it'll be difficult. I'm trying to do this for your own camera. But like here, let's see, where's my camera? That would be more effective. If I hold this here in front of the camera, and then if I move the book, that would be the easiest. So here you see it's like, oh, it's upside down for you, but well, the upside down works. Oh gosh, this is difficult. This is, give me a second to figure this out, please. If you have a magnifying glass, you can try it yourself. Okay, there we go. So here it's upright, but if I go far enough back, I don't think I'm going to get far enough on the camera because the lens is too close. Oh gosh. Get a magnifying glass and it works, okay? There's a certain point at which it flips from upright to in reverse. When it's closer, it's upright and magnified, but when it goes in reverse, it's further. And when it goes in reverse, that's like the difference between it's like a real image and a fake image or something like that. I've talked about this before in a reading when I had the wild unknown, because the high priestess came out in reverse and she has a crystal ball, and it gave me that, like, because of the way that reflection and refraction works, if you're either too close to something or if you're too far from something, you won't get an accurate picture, right? It may be magnified at a certain distance, but after that, it flips in reverse and we completely lose sight of it. And that's when you get too far. But when you get too close, then it's like it's barely magnified at all. It just is what it is. And what's the point of magnifying glass? Anyway, the closer you get to something, the harder it is to see it. But the things that are closest to you are those that deserve the most attention. Paradox is the name of the game, apparently. I was actually thinking about that last night. And for some reason, I started thinking about the Heyoka and the sacred clown. And I was like, oh, it would make sense if the sacred clown, the Heyoka, is the one who can, on a more divine level, understand paradox and learn how to live within it. In that, like that sacred middle space where our power lies. And then I was like, oh, that would kind of sort of make sense for some of the other stuff that I saw. A little bit, maybe not completely. I don't know. Who am I, right? So let's get into this. I'm going to start with this one first today. So the first card is spiritual practice. Okay. I don't think spiritual practice has come out yet, right? Number 19. No, it hasn't. Spiritual practice. Oh, today is Wednesday. I was like, is the garbage running today? It is. Ooh, they almost tried to put me on a garbage truck one day. I was so scared. They were like, hey, Patrick, Adam's not here, so you're on the truck today. I said, no, Adam, why are you doing this to me? And then Adam showed up at the last minute, and I didn't have to get on the garbage truck. I was so excited. I've been to the dump, and it's not great. There's lots of flies, and it smells. And I was like, I never want to come back here. That was one summer. Okay, anyway. So a spiritual practice will help you. I can read this. I can read it, but I'm switching to the other glasses anyway. Well, maybe I won't because I don't remember what I put them. How are you doing today, Zelda? I didn't even ask. I didn't even ask how you're doing today. I feel so bad. Okay, I can't find my glasses, my other glasses, so we're just going to use these today. Like, these work. I just want it to be a little easier. So, a spiritual practice will help you ground your day. It will trigger observations that lead to life-changing breakthroughs and ideas. There are many ways to maintain a spiritual connection through a committed practice. Ganesha is asking you to reflect on the benefits that may be gained by following a specific daily routine for your spirituality. This might include prayer, meditation, or an exercise schedule that connects the body, mind, and spirit, such as yoga or Tai Chi. I want to learn Tai Chi so bad. Additionally, consider burning incense, which is often used to accompany prayers, invocations, and spells in many cultures. As the incense smoke rises up to the heavens, it is said to represent the requests reaching their destination and meeting with approval from the divine. Incense is also believed to have properties that dispel negative energy. Use incense or burn sage to create a special haven for yourself or to clear a sacred space in preparation for a special occasion or ceremony. The smell of incense can also bring about heightened spiritual awareness and realization for the user. I would just throw in a caveat. I'm doing amazing, Zelda. I have absolutely no complaints. I'm just a little tired because I've been resting because I've been working hard. But I'm great. Thank you for asking. Um, but yeah, use like get your sage and your frankincense and everything. Like try to be as ethical as you can with that stuff because the growing economic demand of budding spiritualists all over, it's really draining the resources from places where a lot of them like weren't really being fairly sort of compensated for what it is that they were providing in the first place. Or some of them like they use those things in their own practices and like things like that have survived in their culture. But because of money, it goes to you instead of them. Anyway, just be ethical with it. You're standing up for yourself. Yes. 3 days together. Aww. I'm glad to hear that. There are many tools and techniques that you can use throughout your day to preserve or regain tranquility. Even simply taking a deep breath can restore a spiritual connection. Find what works for you and dedicate some time to your practice each day. I'm going to say this is definitely that find what works for you type of energy. I think there are a lot of things that we can sort of consult. No problem, Zelda. There are a lot of things that we can consult and a lot of things that can be like an excellent first step. But the more you get into your practice, and also I found personally that like what I needed, and I know it's just me, it's also for a few other people as well, that what I needed at the beginning is not what I need now. And like what I needed at the beginning was a lot more intentional and like sort of intense than what I need now. And it's partially because like the more you're in that space and the more you intentionally maintain that connection, the easier it is to maintain that connection. And you don't necessarily need so much, right? It's like if, you know, you lived an hour away from somebody back in the day before telephones, and you would have to write them a letter or you would have to travel to get there. But when you move in the same place, all you have to do is go to the next room and talk to that person. You may not even have to go to the next room. You may be able to yell and holler, apparently, across rooms. Um, and you can hear that person. And so it doesn't necessarily take as much once the connection is stronger, right? Or even if you get someone's phone number, like after you get someone's number, or their social media or whatever, you can just send them a message instead of waiting for them to happen upon you again, wherever or whatever. And also, you start to get more into the things that actually work for you. And that's what I would, that's what I would always recommend anyway, is that in my mind, in my perspective, it's like eventually you should come upon something that's more you than anything that you've necessarily come across. Because, or maybe not necessarily. Because I think there could be some people, or there are some people that really get into the mode that they get into. So maybe also like discover your mode. If you are someone who's very naturally connected to nature and stuff like that, then like going outside in nature would probably be your best, most efficient, quickest way to get connected and to get grounded and stuff like that. If you're a music person and you're like a sound and frequency type person, then the music would be really beneficial for you. If you are like what you call, I want to say like a, I don't want to say like a chanter. If you are someone who vocalizes things, if you're a speaker, then like getting into the mantras may be useful for you. And is there another word for it? I think it's just a mantra. So maybe something like the om or whatever comes to you would be for you. Nature is more than just trees. So for some people, it can be trees. For other people, it'll be water. Some people, it'll be mountains or whatever. Connecting to the natural world. For some people, it is like internal sacred space where it may be like a more of a mental or astral thing for you rather than like anything outside of you. And so the more you kind of sort of get into whatever it is that you do, the more you kind of sort of just naturally gravitate towards one or the other. Or like there may be certain things that you use one for more than the other. It may come across your purview and then you give it a try and you're like, wow, like this I can connect with a lot easier. And like do like or the connection is like a lot quicker or whatever. Whatever. There are different modes and I believe that you'll find yours. And you may find yours in a way that not a lot of people are necessarily talking about, or it may be the case that you find people who talk about your mode after you get into your mode. So part of your journey is establishing your connection well enough to be told more directly or through a means of like other people not necessarily saying, this is what I do for meditation. And then you find it, and then you find the people that's like, this is what I do for meditation. Right. Or not. Again, it's not necessarily that way for everybody. But I think the spiritual practice, and I think to me, it would seem that more so than the practice being the importance here, the real importance lies in the connection. So, um, I would say if you found ways to positively cope with, ground, or connect yourself, then that would be good. I know I heard somebody either earlier today or yesterday talk about grounding. Like when you get these, like when your crown chakra is blasted with a download or something and you have difficulty like grounding it, I think one of the easiest ways to ground anything is to have like a root chakra that's like, you know, strong and sturdy and stable. Also, it may be like the 10th chakra or something like that. It's like the earth star. I've come across the information like twice. But there is a chakra that runs a lot deeper than the root and it really grounds you. Now, I don't necessarily believe that you have to know about the chakras to get the benefits of them because it's a system that's energetic that's already there, right? Just like you don't have to know how neurons work to get your body to move if you have a body that is able to move. It just moves. And so, too, the energy in your body just flows. It makes it helpful for diagnosing, for diagnostic purposes, when you know like what this organ does and what that organ does and what some symptoms of an overly functioning organ or an underly functioning organ are, so that you can isolate, problems or woes and ailments and treat them. But you don't have to know how all of that stuff works for it to work and function. It just does. It's designed that way. But, it can be difficult if there are still those things that kind of sort of prevent us a little bit more fundamentally from taking in the information. Also, at the same time, sometimes you do get something that you don't understand, and life typically, or I'm just like, life will show me eventually. Eventually, this will make sense. So I'll keep it in my back pocket and I'll see how life shows itself to me. Next is cultivation. And I think we've gotten cultivation before. I think this is the one that talked about music. So maybe last time I ain't do a good enough job talking about this one because it's popped out again. Or maybe it's just to go with this spiritual practice. So cultivation. It says listening to music can heal, encourage, and nurture your soul. Your spirituality is an essential part of who you are, and it forms the framework of your world. Music resonates with the human spirit. At the heart of humanity is the song of the soul. Music has the power to unite communities, cultures, and civilization. Listening to music can heal, hearten, and support your soul. Studies have found that musical tones communicate with and have an energetic impact on the cells and organs of the human body. It is believed that the cells vibrate and essentially have their own musical intonations. Listening to music can help heal and uplift your energy. You may find that by tuning into uplifting or calming music, you create space for greater contemplation and, in turn, gain more clarity about what you are creating in your life. It can also bring about a stronger connection to your higher self or to oneness. Music cultivates community as sound fosters communication and greater unity. Cultivation is a continual process that develops, encourages, and nurtures. There is a spiritual connection that forms between the music and the listener. Ganesha is inviting you to incorporate music into your life in a way that will augment your spiritual expansion. Listen to soothing music while you prepare for your day. Move away from the noise of excessive electronics and digital images and back to a more melodic existence. Take time to sit and listen to music. Doing this can shift your energy for a clearer and more for a clearer and more receptive state. Now the Om was on a different one. That was a different one. This one did mention music though. And I talked about how music can be the thing. So that would be sound, vibration, and frequency. But everything in the universe is in motion. Like we've hypothesized that 0 Kelvin is the temperature at which matter stands absolutely still. And we've gotten really, 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 really close. Well, comparatively, I guess, really, really, really close to 0 Kelvin, but we haven't reached 0 Kelvin yet. Humanity is not yet capable of getting matter to stand still. And for me, I guess in a context like this, it just speaks to like at your best, still the natural world will be what the natural world will be. You don't have the capability to stop motion. And we've broken the sound barrier but we haven't broken the light barrier yet when it comes to like speed. Like the speed of sound, that's what happens when the sonic boom is what happens when someone breaks it or something breaks the sound barrier, the speed of sound. But currently in physics, there's nothing that travels faster than the speed of light. The speed of light is like the limit at which something can travel. And so there are kind of sort of these physical sort of hard limitations, at least at the moment. But at the same time, I don't think it's about necessarily stopping anything. It's about finding a resonant frequency. Because if you find a resonant frequency to something, it is effectively stopped, right? Like from an outside, physics was not my strong suit. I'll just preface this by saying that. But from an outside inertial perspective, if you and this thing are moving at the same speed, or if you're like on the same sort of wavelength and frequency, then you're like comparatively always there. And so without stopping, it's effectively stopped because you're always there. Always that like bridge is always connected. And so it's not, I think a lot of times, and even like when we get overwhelmed in life, it's like, and I've been there plenty of times, it's like I wish like everything would just stop long enough for me to catch up with myself emotionally, myself mentally, and then catch up with all of my responsibilities and then like be good. But the wheel keeps turning and it never stops. And I think it also speaks to like how a lot of times we wait sometimes for the perfect moment to do this or the perfect moment to do something else. And it's not about finding the perfect moment to do it where it's like the trolleys back in the day apparently where like it didn't stop. You had to hop on and hop off. Um, it's about matching it in pace and then getting on to ride it. And when you're on something, then it's like the world around you shifts instead of that thing shifting. And so inside of that space, then you've also stopped. You've stopped inside of that space, but the space is still moving because everything is in motion. And it also reminds me of water and the experiments. I think it was a Japanese scientist. I'm not sure. I guess I could look it up, but I don't want to say it's not that important. But there are experiments with the crystallization of water, where like people would say something to water and then they would freeze it and like higher vibrational things like love and unity and joy and positivity, they would form these nice crystalline structures. But like I hate you and you're dumb and you're stupid and you're gross and you would form these ice crystals that were just a mess. And so there was that like a way of physically seeing discordance versus cordance. And our bodies are so much water that if that happens for a crystal or for like water outside of a body, imagine what it does inside of your body, the place that originates your voice, right? It's like your vocal cords are in your body, shaking everything up when you say something, and your ears are picking it up too. So it's like not only does it resonate, does it originate within you, but also your own ears pick it up, and so it re-enters you again, and it does something. And so here it's about creating a practice. It's like it kind of sort of goes beyond, like I don't want to say elementary gratitude, but that's what it feels like. It goes beyond basic gratitude and affirmations into creating something. It has the ability to evolve into something that goes beyond basic gratitude and affirmations. And Queen Cup, who's one of my favorite readers on the YouTube, um, in her New Year, was it New Year? Was it solstice? It was Christmas in her Christmas hangout video. She said something because someone was like, I'm grateful for having like a roof over my head and food on the table. And she was like, that's kind of basic. When you come into all of who you are, there's more for you to accomplish. There's more for you to gain, more for you to have than a roof over your head and food on the table. And it's not that we're not grateful and appreciative of that. It's that we set our sights higher. And what we have to gain and what we have to claim on our journey of like self growth and self mastery, and just like being in a position to live life not so affected by the external events and circumstances that happen in general. And as we get to that place where it's like the things that we can do are the things that are for us to do to serve other people, once we're in that energy, then there's more that we have than like, the basic necessities. And I feel like it's almost a byproduct of a competitive culture where we can be grateful, or like where we think that basic necessities are something that we should be grateful for. And again, it's not that we shouldn't be grateful for them, but it's like our basic necessities are the things that should be met for us to live. Right. So it's like there are people who don't have those things. And I guess that's part of that comparative society again. It's not only competitive, it's also, just like comparative in general. It's like, well, there are people who don't have this and there are people who don't have that. Like anything beyond the basic, like, yes, like be grateful for that. But the basic, it's like, okay, spirit, I need this to live. And without this, I'm not alive to do what I'm here to do. So anyway, it's bigger than we make it sometimes. And it's not that we don't feel gratitude and appreciation for that. It's just that we set our sights higher. And that's part of what this elevation kind of sort of gives us. But it's like, it's been so windy for like a week now. Anyway, it's like once you've like mastered elementary gratitude, then you graduate to intermediate gratitude, and then you know, the levels of gratitude that exist above and beyond that. But it does start with that basic practice of appreciating those basic things. But it's like, it's this message of like, I don't know, it's just like there's so much more that you have to be grateful for. It's like a garden and the gate from the energy oracle cards type of energy. That's what it is. It's the garden and the gate. And it's like, spirit is like, I've made this whole world for you. And while you should be grateful for the garden, I also want you to experience and be grateful for everything that exists outside the gate. Like I created it for you. I put it there for you to experience and to have. And we should always have gratitude for where we've been and for what we have. But that gratitude for what we have shouldn't keep us from expanding more. Now, when you forget to be grateful for those things, or when you're no longer grateful for those things, that's when it more so becomes an issue and a problem. Okay. Bottom of the deck is blessings, number 44. Okay, this is interesting. Watch this be like, appreciate the roof over your head and that food on your table. I'm just playing, but I do love, because I felt like that was a little bit of a departure for spiritual practice and cultivation, because more on the surface, it's about like listen to music and meditate and do things daily that influence your spiritual practice. But spirituality, just like life, it's something that's ever growing and ever evolving and ever changing. And for us to stop at meditation, it's like that's when spirituality dies, basically. For us to stop at basic gratitude, that's when spirituality dies. Because just like life, it's the nature of life to continuously grow and to continuously expand. That's the element of life. The element of spirit is like water and air, but earth and fire all at the same time. It's ever present and ever changing, ever evolving, ever pushing further into that space that we can't see. But when we get there, it enters our vision. Blessings. Let's talk about blessings. Oh gosh. 44, you are divinely protected. Ganesha asks you, I'm kind of covering a little bit. Okay. Ganesha asks you to consider what exactly it is, to consider what exactly is it that you want at this time. He asserts that your desires are within your reach. The universe is conspiring to help you achieve your aspirations. Since the universe is in harmony with your desires, the how will transpire effortlessly. Ganesha is bestowing on you blessings of luck, love, and new prospects. Be very clear about your intentions at this time. Once you have identified what you desire, Ganesha will work to clear the obstacles and amp up your blessings. Withstand the temptation to succumb to self-indulgence. You are in an excellent affluence phase. Okay. You are in an excellent affluence phase. This period will not last forever, so be sure to take advantage of it and act when opportunities arise. Resolve will triumph. The principle of averages works in your favor now. The more that you perpetrate something that you want, the more likely you are to receive the very thing, even if it feels impossible. These manifestation possibilities are endless and range in subject matter from love to money to success to happiness. Ganesha teaches that your blessings are continuous. The realization of the blessing may not be immediately apparent. Trust that happiness and blessings are always being showered on you. What is going on in your life at this moment is external and beyond your control. True happiness and blessings lie within, in you, in your heart and soul. I love that. I love that because I feel like that confirms and affirms what it is that I was saying rather than like, kind of sort of like, oop. And I was like, oh, and so I stand corrected. I stand corrected, but I stand to be correct in what I was saying in the first place. Um, yeah, I kind of want to put something extra. I wasn't gonna do these. Well, I was. I looked at these, and I was like, I should do one of these. I was like, I don't really feel like it. But now I'm like, I feel like I want something more. So we're gonna do one of these. The universe has your back cards. The universe has your back cards. Yeah, and that's like, again, that's to me, that's how I look at the Hierophant. Because I think if the Hierophant was what we treat it to be, then it would have been laid out in the system in that third septenary somewhere. It would have been a lot closer to the world if the Hierophant had all the answers. And even the Hermit comes after the Hierophant. So at the Hierophant, that's when like other people are telling you this is how you connect, this is what you do this, you do that, bada bing, bada boom, yada 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 yada, and you're like, you're plugged in, girl, you're living in the 5D. And then the Hermit comes along, and it's like, okay, what the Hierophant said was great, was Gucci, was fine, it works, but I need to find me. And I need to find the divine spark that lies within me. I need to find the fraction of the image of God that I was created in. Because Hierophant can't give that to you. A good Hierophant will, assist you and push you towards finding that yourself. What Hierophant has become to be a lot of times, it seems, is very egoic. And it will have you kind of sort of looking at it as if it is this source that you are connected to. But what that does is it creates these it's not a pinch point, what is it? It's like not a stopgap, a bottleneck. It bottlenecks people. And the larger the congregation of the Hierophant, the larger that bottlenecking effect, because the Hierophant is only one person. It's like having one teacher trying to teach 1,000 people. That student to teacher ratio is terrible. And again, once you go through the education system, eventually by the end of the day, you should be able to like take the information that life gives you and apply the thought processes and the questions, the methodologies of questioning to get an answer that is you. Oh, okay, there we go. I think this is the one about oneness. Of course it fell on the floor because, you know, that's what they all do. This is not the one about oneness. Oh my gosh, I need to go through this deck and see what I can actually see now that my cataracts are removed. Because some of these were hard to read. The moment I embrace my peace within and surrender the outcome is the moment that the universe can truly get to work. And I let go of the shadow of the past by seeing someone for the first time with the eyes of love. Even if that someone is you. You know, a lot of times we don't look at ourselves through the eyes of love. We look at ourselves through the lens of a disappointment or a failure that it seems that we've been, or we look at ourselves with this overly conflated ego because everyone's like, oh my gosh, you're so talented, you're so gorgeous, you're so smart, you're so beautiful, you're amazing. And so we look at all of our things, we look at ourselves in all of those ways. But that's not, I would say in this context that that's not really love. That's more so like an adoration or an infatuation or something like that, because it emphasizes a specific quality or specific qualities rather than looking at the individual as a whole. And it's not that that's bad. It's just like love will get you to see a more complete picture. And you appreciate the good things, yeah, but it's more than just the good things. Bottom of the deck is I create mindful moments throughout the day. This is interesting. Reminding myself that I am love and miracles are natural. That's like all of this. I create mindful moments throughout the day that remind me that I am love and miracles are natural. I love that. So there's a little bit of confirmation. What's confirmation? There's a little bit of confirmation for what it is that I was feeling. And I love it. I love it. And that's something that I don't know, I'm gonna get over too. And I know I keep talking about it. It's like I don't need to explain how I came to the conclusion that I came to from the cards that were on the table. Because when I try to get into the explanation, sometimes I lose what the thing is. I just need to do that more consciously. Moving forward. Okay, I'm starting to get tongue tied. It's time for me to go. I hope you have a good whatever whenever you see this. I hope that you are in a place to continuously go beyond. And maybe that's one of the things that the natural world really does. I can't even say that the natural world does a disservice to our spiritual journey sometimes, because the natural world, it lies on the other end of that spiritual journey, right? So that's like saying that um, the oven is doing your food a disservice because there are ingredients that you didn't put into it. It's like the oven's job is to cook, right? The physical 3D world, Earth is the oven, and you are the chef. You select the ingredients. You like the oven does not determine the freshness of your ingredients or the presence of your ingredients or anything like that. The oven can only cook what you put into it. And it can only cook it for as long as you allow it to be in there. And so you have more to say on the oven rather than the oven has to say. Now, if the oven, for whatever reason, isn't cooking evenly, or if it's getting old and like there's rust in it that's causing things to cook weird or something, I don't know much about ovens. I don't mess with ovens. I don't mess with hot boxes because if if I use an oven to cook food, but I gotta put my hand in the oven to cook the food, then my hand becomes food, and I'm not trying to get eaten by an oven. I'm not trying to get cooked. So anyway, just like the bees and the honey yesterday, it's like if you don't give the bees any flour, there's not going to be any honey. If you don't put anything in the oven or the microwave, there's not going to be anything. Like, have you ever went to the microwave and you set it and then you open it after it goes off and it's empty and you're like, oh my gosh, I forgot to put the food in the microwave. So I just not wasted, I just waited that time for nothing. And then I think that's kind of sort of how we look at divine timing sometimes too. And that's not how divine timing works. Like divine timing isn't close the oven, set it to 450 for 30 minutes, and then pull it out and food magically appears. It's not open the microwave, close the microwave, set it to 2 minutes, and then after 2 minutes, it'll appear quicker than it would if you used an oven. Like whether you're using an oven, a microwave, a grill, a campfire, without any food, it's not going to cook. That's its purpose is to cook. You're the chef. Earth is the tool, the appliance. Your experience is the meal. So if your experience is lacking something, there's something that you're not putting into the dish in the first place. But with the love and money centric sort of viewpoints that we have of spirituality, then it becomes this, oh, I'm not getting the love, I'm not getting the money, I'm not going to do the spirituality, or I'm going to get hung up on the love and the money instead of doing the things that I need to do with the spirituality. And it's like, okay, girl, just keep opening and closing the oven. Eventually, divine timing is going to make a quiche magically appear. That's how it works. And I don't want to be like that, but it really like sometimes we be like that. Like people be like that. Like that's really how we treat it. And like spirituality is over here to teach us how to be these master chefs and teaching us how to select the freshest ingredients and teaching us how to like even if we don't have the freshest ingredients, like how to identify the rotten parts and how to identify something that is salvageable and how to like to use the appliances. But it's like we just expect for spirit to cook everything. And maybe there was a point in time when spirit did a lot of the cooking. But I mean, if people are over here talking about 5D and people are over here talking about the age of Aquarius, well, when you go from 3 to 5, that's a graduation. When you go from Pisces to Aquarius, that's a shift, that's a transition. So, it was like back in the day, there was so many reasons as to why we were so indoctrinated in everything that we were indoctrinated in. There was a lot of grace that was given. And it's like nowadays, it's not that our grace has run out, but it's like, okay, like we can't remain children forever. Eventually, at some point, we have to grow and evolve and change, or else we're dead, right? Life, spirituality, everything is in motion, everything is a movement. And I mean, decay is a movement, decay is motion. So, is there any stagnation in a world that is always in motion? On one hand, you can argue no. You're either growing or decaying. There's no real stagnation in between. Now, that's why we have things like equilibrium. Equilibrium would be something where the rate of decay is equal to the rate of growth. And so, from an outside perspective, that's something that we can view as stagnation, but that's growth in some areas and that's decay in other areas. Anyway, I don't necessarily have to get this deep into it, but I don't like I've got the time today. Because there's only what, like 2 days left in the year. It's the 30th today. Oh my gosh, where did this year go? Right. And like these are the things that we don't really like. But that's what happens when you use spirituality to get money or to get a man or to get a woman or to get a person or to get a job or to get this or to get that. It's like no eggs, no cheese, no veggies, no nothing in this quiche. Maybe you put the pot in the oven or the pan. I guess that's something. So then you get a hot pan when you take it out of the oven. And if you eat like metal or glass or whatever, then you can eat the hot pan, I guess. But I think that's what this is about. It's about us really taking advantage of the way the system works. But it's not taking advantage. I feel like it's taking advantage from the way the system works from a viewpoint of someone who doesn't know how to use the system or who ineffectively uses the system or who someone who the system sometimes works for and someone who someone who the system like always works for. Now, if you naturally sit in a position higher in the rankings, if you're naturally higher, a part of that higher echelon, then it's like, yeah, girl, you probably don't have to do much to get a pretty decent experience because you're already there. But again, everything is in motion. And then you get people who's like, wow, we've had multiple generations of wealth and you've somehow managed to lose all of it. How did that happen? If it's not growing, it's decaying. And just because it doesn't reach that state of decay in your lifetime doesn't mean that eventually, if a change is not made and progress is not had, that it won't reach a state of decay. So it could be your fault that it's gone just as much as it's the fault of the person who lost it. Because that's just the person who inherited that thing in the time it would reach that sort of critical decaying point rather than a critical growth point. And I guess, well, I was gonna say it seems that like kind of unfairly that like you have to work. Like, why is it that we have to work for growth, but we don't have to work for decay? I think in some ways we kind of sort of do have to work for decay, especially with the decay of some things. And that work is negligence, it's ignorance, willful or not. Sometimes it's like I think it's work either way. But I just think that like a lot of times we don't consider negligence to be work. It's just like, oh, I wasn't doing anything and it fell apart. But not doing something is doing something. So I think I'm getting to the point where I'm kind of rambling a little bit. So final takeaways is create a practice of creating your practice. Understand that your needs are going to change as you change. When you're in a period of growth, you're going to require more energy, so you may eat more. When you're in a period of work, you may use more energy, so you may like slim down, tone down, whatever. Your demands energetically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually are going to be different for the different phases of growth. And growth can be something sort of cyclic. Like you may have your, like a plant, you have your night cycles and then you have your day cycles. You have your uptime and your downtime. There's like when you're on the clock, when you're off the clock, the things that you do for your personal growth, and then, you know, all that other stuff. But as long as as long as the season is being met, then that's still growth. Even in the wintertime when the bear is asleep, it's still growth because that's the time for the bear to be asleep. And because the bear is asleep when it is asleep, it ensures more growth in the springtime when the bear comes out of the cave or whatever. Right? But it's all within you. Like the Hierophant is literally number 5 out of 20. That's a fourth of the way there. At most, the Hierophant can get you 25%. Hierophant is 5, right? Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, because it's after the Emperor. Okay. Look, I have to make sure real quick. The Hierophant can get you 25% of the way there. And then even the Hermit is 9 out of 20. That's almost 50%, almost half. And beyond that, that's when life comes. And that's when we're taking everything that we've learned up until the Hermit, and that knowledge is getting tested and verified and hopefully re-evaluated, reinforced, revisited as we experience life outside, right? It's like there's the period of education, but then there's the period of like real world experience. And enough experience can be a substitute for education, especially when it comes to a specific thing, right? Like you don't necessarily need to go learn all of the laws and theories, theorems, and all that kind of stuff to know that if this happens, then we do that. Now, if you don't have the experience to know that when this happens, like when A happens, do B, then like all the laws and theorems and stuff, it's pretty good. I'd be like getting you to see that, oh, okay, I need to do B, because you don't yet have the experience to know that. But again, like if you have the experience, like when A happens, we do B. When E happens, we do C, and then we do G. And then when Z happens, we do number 25,642. And the law and theory guy is like, whoa, how did you just go from letters to numbers? What are you talking about? That violates this theorem and that theorem, and it's whatever. And it's like, your theories are cute, but when it comes to real life, you know, this is what you would call an outlier. And this is how we handle outliers. If you had the experience, you would know that. It's about both. Anyway, all right, I'm officially done now. I'll catch y'all whenever I catch y'all. Hope you have a good whatever whenever y'all having it. I hope it's even better because you're making it better, because you're aligning to better, because you're putting in the work to attain better, because you're setting your sights on better, all while being grateful. Like you can be grateful and still want more at the same time. You know, plants do it, animals do it, everyone else is doing it. We just have a more whatever consciousness, I guess, to the point where we can decide not to do it if we don't want to do it, and then still cry when it's not being done. Oh my gosh. Imagine a plant choosing to go in the dark and then, like, when anyone else literally does it, we talk about them. But when we do it, it's like, oh my gosh. Okay, let me stop. That's enough. That's enough. I feel like I do talk a little strongly. I talk really strongly sometimes, but I just like, I'm really, the world that I want to live in is a world in which people are actually happy and fulfilled. And I know, everyone knows, that the way that we're going about doing things right now, it makes that so difficult to be done. And I've been like, I am human. I continue to be human. I will always be human for the foreseeable future. In this incarnation, I will always be human. Um, unless, I don't know, I decide to be more than human. Aren't we all more than human? It's like we don't get there if we don't do anything. And it's so wild to me. Not wild because, again, there's nothing new under the sun and I'm not surprised. But I was just thinking about it because I've said it before. Like my mom always says, the Bible says warning comes before destruction. And I'm thinking about COVID, right? Because yesterday I was like, we should have been prepared for this in some way. And like, do y'all remember like a few years ago when Ebola was a thing? And at least here in the US, people are like, oh my gosh, like if Ebola makes it to the US, then it's going to be whatever. And then Ebola made it to the US. But like, I think it was only what, like a handful of people got it. Or maybe Oregon, maybe not. I don't remember. But like, literally nothing happened. Like, to my knowledge and awareness, and I only know so much because we are only permitted to know so much when we're not in that governmental tier echelon of what things happen. But like, we just had this Ebola scare years ago, and between years ago and now, I feel like if we would have actually taken that warning, we would have been better prepared for the destruction that happened now, and we could have minimized it. But again, we're sitting in this space where no one wants to socially distance. No, I don't want to say no one. We're sitting in this space where there are those who don't want to socially distance. They don't want to wear masks. They don't want to do anything that puts this under control or at least minimizes the impact until we have a means of dealing with it. But they expect for everything to remain the same. It's like you want to get back to normal, but you don't want to do anything that ensures that you get that normal. That's a paradox. We live paradoxes all the time. And then when a vaccine comes out, and I'm not going to say that there isn't valid reason. I'm not going to say that there hasn't been valid reason in some cases, especially for certain communities of people, aka the Black community, and a lot of minority communities, and even some women, and poor people. Okay, so anyone who isn't like, checking all of the majority boxes, like we've been taken advantage of by science and back when them French scientists or whatever were like, why don't we just take the vaccine to Africa and test it on them? That was like a blast from what we would call the past, but it's still happening. There's still racial and ethnic disparities when it comes to healthcare, even outside of just the facilities that are in those areas themselves. Anyway, I'm gonna get lost. Where was I going with that? Yeah, it's like it's not like we don't have reason to mistrust, but it's like if you don't want to socially distance, you don't want to wear the mask, you don't want to do anything that will put this under control, and then you don't want to take the vaccine either. Then like, how is this supposed to like what is the solution here? It's like I want everything, but I'm not willing to do anything to get it. Spirituality is my way to make that happen. It's like, no, that's not like, no, you always have to do something to get something. And spirituality, instead of you grinding day in and day out, hoping to make the right connection or have a lucky break or to have this miraculous turn of events, you do things in a more intentional way, spiritually, that aligns these things to happen rather than happening by chance and circumstance or happenstance. Spirituality is its work applied in a different direction. But a lot of times, it just seems that, oh, like I can do this, not have to do anything, and then get everything. And it's like, no. And then what really blows my mind is that, like, people will be like, well, how come this country and that country, like, they didn't have a vaccine and they're like back to day life? And it's like, yeah, well, maybe because they socially distanced and maybe because they bit the bullet and did those lockdowns, like actual like lockdowns, and they were willing or they were forced to endure that temporary discomfort to have some pleasure. Like that's why it came back with that. Like it's like I don't know. It's just like our sight is so selective. It's weird, but not weird. I remember saying something like that one day, and somebody was like, "Your third eye is open." I'm like, "What are you talking about? My third eye is open." Like, is this what having an open third eye means? Like common sense? And it's not even like, well, they say common sense isn't common, and here I am going like, I should have ended this video when I ended this video. But it's like we're willing to do literally nothing. And like what we are willing to do is less than the bare minimum. And so maybe that's why we're grateful for the roof over our head and the food on our table and the things that we need to just live day to day, because we're not actually out there or we're not actually willing to do anything to get more. Or at least not willing to do anything to get more in the ways that we could be more guaranteeing that. It's like, eventually if you play the lottery long enough, you win. Someone has to win the lottery. It's like, okay, well, instead of playing the lottery to get this money, what if I could interest you in the education and the tools to make this a sure thing? And education isn't always a degree from some school. Education is just you getting the information, learning to apply the information, and learning how to reach conclusions, giving, limited information about a process or a thing. And it's just like, I don't know, it just really, and again, it doesn't blow my mind because I've lived life and I've seen that this is a thing. Like we continuously and constantly do this, especially here in America. But, I'm sure people do it all over the world. We do it in day to day lives, right? We look at we look at what people have on the outside, but we don't look at all of the work that it took to get them there. We don't envy the work. We don't envy how, maybe there was a point in time where they were literally the only person that believed in them. We don't envy all of the failures that they endured and suffered before they found the success. We don't envy any of that. We just envy the stuff. And it's like, it's just so apparent in nearly everything that we do. And, maybe that's why shadow work was what shadow work was. And then we're surprised when these shadows continuously come back. And it's like, well, maybe the shadow is coming back because you didn't actually heal or address it last time. Sometimes there is more to heal and address because when you get to deeper shadows, they have like roots in lots of different things. And so if you go from this thing to that thing, you may find that there's a certain shadow that has, it has like a stake in both or in multiple arenas of your life. But again, like if you address that central shadow, then those other roots kind of sort of like shrivel up and die. And when they shrivel up and die, it opens you up to new things. It clears the land for something to actually grow. And then we can ground some of this stuff that comes in instead of trying to find a place where between some of the things that are growing and all of the weeds that are there. It's just, I don't know. And again, like I know that a lot of the reason why we are this way is because this is like what the world sort of has to give us and has to show us. Everyone feels that, or not everyone, a lot of people feel that the world has been unfair and unkind to them, that they would be made to suffer while there are people in the world who benefit or who grow or who have this and who have that. And instead of addressing the things that they have the power to address within their own lives, maybe some patterns and habits and behaviors that keep them from either getting or maintaining that level of stuff that they see other people with that they want, they just envy others and don't do anything. And then you pick up the habits and the patterns and the language and the behaviors. Well, yeah, that's because you have this and I don't. My parent or guardian says that you have this and like that's why you have everything. You don't have to deal with this. And then that's what you grow up with. Oh yeah, but they don't have this and they don't have that. So that's why they can do this and that's why they can do that. But again, you don't see the things that they do have. Because there are things that they have that maybe prevented them, or there are things that they have that could prevent them, could be blockages that you don't have. But in your mind, it's like, yeah, but you got the stuff. So apparently your stuff isn't that big of a deal. If you can have that and still have the stuff, then you still have it easy. And it's like, okay, you know, but then, all you got to do is subscribe to the gospel of stuff. The gospel of stuff will get you everything you want for little to nothing on your part. And it's like, okay, all right. I'm officially done now. I'm gonna catch y'all later. This, I mean, it's just about anchoring yourself in something that actually has weight. Anchoring yourself in the things that lie beyond and above everything in the in between. And this is the land and the world of the in betweens. Seemingly constantly subjected to higher and lower influences and trying to make choice in between. In reality, where because of the way we operate, all of our choices are basically made for us. But since we still end up making that choice that was already predetermined for us to make, we still have to like live with the repercussions and consequences of those choices. Because even though that choice was made for you, you still made the choice. And it's like, what? How does that work? If the choice was made for me and I made the choice, then didn't I not make the choice? It's like, no, you still chose it. Even if that's how you grew up, even if that's everything that you've already experienced, like even if that's all that you've ever experienced, there is that part of you inside that knows that you don't have to make that choice. But there are more parts of you that will justify that choice. And there's a whole world outside of you that will justify a lot of the choices. And you'll choose to listen to those that justify those choices that don't get you where you want to be instead of listening to, the part of you that actually knows how to get there. But it requires you to do stuff. So, oh, like I actually have to put the ingredients in this to get a pie. I can't just put a pie tin in the oven and set it for the time it's supposed to be there and wait for divine timing to pop me out a pie. And it's like, maybe if that's a system of belief that you subscribe to, the mind is a powerful thing. Maybe it'll work like that for you. I'm not going to say that it won't. I'm not going to say that it doesn't work like that. It might. I don't know. It's just not my experience. So, if it works for you, then it works for you. And you probably wouldn't be listening to me anyway. But anyway, I'll catch y'all later. I'm going to, you know what? I'm going to be on this. I'm going to be on this today and tomorrow because, I mean, if this is a wrap up and if this is made with the intention to get you to see the things that you need to see before we close out this year, or get you to see the things that will really benefit you moving forward into the next year or on the other side of the next year, so that like at least you know the general direction that you're going in. You may not know how to get there, but from the general direction and from where you are, you should have some kind of idea of some of the things in your life that need to change to get you there. But again, at the end of the day, you have to be willing to do it. So, I don't know. All right, I'll catch y'all later. Bye.